About Dalio is the legendary founder of the largest hedge fund in the U.S., Bridgewater Associates. He's also the author of the new book, Why Countries Go Broke. Ray, this Iran-Israel situation, I want you to look at it through the investor lens. The White House said yesterday that President Trump will make his decision in 2 weeks as to whether the U.S. will engage in direct strikes in Iran. You have said in this book that war is one mechanism by which countries go broke. Make your assessment right now about this one.
Well, there's an economic component, and of course there's the ripple effects of this. The direct economic component is that it's extremely expensive and that countries go broke. The indirect is how we're all going to be affected by it, right? So I've lived many times through wars, and I've studied wars all through history. And the history in the Middle East is of relatively short wars, and there's a possible wonderful outcome of this if there's the possibility of a regime change or in Iran, which produces a peace in the Middle East and perhaps even a regime change in Israel that can bring about a greater amount of peace to the region and so on. There is, of course, the possibility of something that gets way out of control. That seems to be relatively minor, but it is one of those things that the markets are not taking, are not going to discount until it happens. It's going to be reactive. So anyway, it's a period of uncertainty. Probably the ripple effects are not going to be great in terms of that which would affect the markets and the economy. And one can't say that they were not going to be better environment than worse environment. So I think everybody's waiting, but we don't want to exaggerate the importance of this relative to for the markets, relative to the most important influences, which are the debt and the money and the interest rate influence, I think.
Exactly. And you talk in the book about how, well, you were fascinated with the markets when you were 13 years old, maybe even before. When you were 13, you watched President John F. Kennedy at the time address the nation, and the nation was terribly worried that the country was about to face a nuclear war due to the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962. So can you gauge how you compare these two? Because back then you said you were really worried the markets would take a massive hit, and they didn't really. Right.
And there is this brinksmanship. And we've seen it in many times, right? The Iraq War and those moments. So many times we've seen these things, but they don't tend to have the ripple effects. Because they are big, important, dramatic events, there is a tendency of market participants sometimes to think of them as bigger than they are on the markets. But the markets are still the present value of future cash flows. That's the main driver of the markets.
And the future of cash flows? How about the present of cash flows? What do you see at the moment?
Well, again, I think that the most important issue that we're having to deal with is the debt issue, and it's coming up on its due date. And the reason I wrote the book is because I wanted people to understand the mechanics. I've been doing this for 50 years, and I've been through many of these debt crises.
In fact, you called the 2008 housing and financial crisis before it happened.
Yes, and also the European 2010 to 15 because of understanding the mechanics. And so what I wanted to do at this stage of my life is to pass along the understanding of the mechanics so that individual investors, but also most importantly, policymakers can deal with it.
Well, we also look at what happened before the outbreak of this war. You went to the region when President Trump was there in the month of May, and there were deals being struck right and left. Let's just pick Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia said it would commit about $600 billion in investment to the United States or with U.S. companies, and they weren't the only ones. You had Qatar investing, all kinds of money flying around. Do you think that a military operation, if the U.S. got involved, that they would not come through with those deals? They wouldn't come through? Would they hold their money?
I think that most generally, I think we all have a money issue and we have a cash flow issue, but I think that by and large what we're seeing around the world is more deal making. It's never been as multinational The whole world is like one investment and deal-making type of place of all different nationalities. It's never been as more global. So I think that's here to stay. I think if you take the objectives of those participants in the region, it was about deals. It was about trying to bring about prosperity. There is a view, really, that the regime in Iran is an old world regime.
Yeah, it's not modern.
Okay, it's not modern, and that the people of Iran would like to have the change. And so there's this multinational deal-making type of environment out there, and that's what you were seeing through that trip.
I want to talk about a different development, and that is the president's big, beautiful tax and spend bill. He is pushing Congress hard to get this done by July 4th. He wants it signed, sealed, and delivered. You just had the CBO come out with a new assessment of how much it would add to the deficit. The current deficit right now is $2 trillion. That's the difference between how much money in tax revenues is coming in and how much money the country is spending to run itself. The CBO now says that dynamic, meaning you take into account what Republicans are trying to say, that there will be growth and their tariffs money will be coming in, and that will certainly help the situation. They say it would grow to $2.8 trillion as far as the deficit is concerned. Can we afford this bill?
No, and I want to explain why we're also at an inflection point, a very, very dangerous inflection point. That's why in the book I explain it, but I just want to explain it in a nutshell. The credit system is like the circulatory system, and it brings buying power to the whole economy. And that is great. It produces debt, but if the debt is invested that produces income, that it services the debt, it's a very healthy environment.
Right.
But what happens is that there's this accumulation of debt and debt service payments. Right now, for example, for the government, we are operating with a $7 trillion spending and a $5 trillion intake each year. Okay, we're spending 40% more than we're taking in, and this is a chronic problem. So what you're seeing is the debt service payments beginning to squeeze away, not beginning, well into squeezing away. So it's like plaque in the arteries, squeezing away buying power. And as you can do the numbers, you will see that you can have an economic heart attack as a result of that, that we're going to very soon get to the position that you need debt to pay the debt. Think about it this way.
That's crazy,
okay,
Ray.
Think about the fact that there's $1 trillion in interest, $9 trillion of debt that's coming due. So you have to sell that again. That's $10 trillion. Plus $2 trillion of new borrowing. That's $12 trillion that you have to sell in terms of the markets. So the second big influence is the supply-demand influence. By knowing really how much has to be sold and who the buyers are and the likelihood of that amount being bought, one can calculate the imbalance. That's a problem. And so if you even then start to get selling of that debt, because debt is not a good thing to be owning, not just because of the worry about default, but the worry about monetization. Central banks having to come in there and print money to buy it, devalues the value of holding that money. That dynamic is, we are at this inflection point that will be coming upon us soon.
Yeah, the word broke is certainly scary. Ray, stay right there. We have so much more ahead.